Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and if you are new here, welcome to the channel. Now, if you've already been a member of this channel and a subscriber, I want to say thank you for all the support last year. And also, you probably realized that the background's different. The last background I had, obviously, I moved places, had a temporary setup that lasted a little bit too long, and now this one, obviously it's not the greatest at the moment. We do have some little things here and there, you know, we got the books there, we got the mixed martial arts for dummies like me, and then we've also got another poster up here, which I did get in the wrong size. It is too small, so I'm getting another one that's bigger so you can actually see it, so you're not just staring at my face and not being able to read anything in the background like it was before. So hopefully that's going to all be cleaned up, get set up, going to add a few more things into the background, so it should make it a bit more vibrant and everything, and a bit less dull, which is what I'm hoping for. But in this video, obviously, we're going into a new year, a new UFC year. We have Amanda Ribas versus Mackenzie Dern fight night. We're going to be predicting and breaking down every single fight on this card, and also predicting and breaking down the best moments, the best achievements, looking at performance of the night, upset of the night, the fighter to watch as well, and obviously the finish of the night too. So without further ado, let's get into the first prediction video of 2025, starting off with Joe Solecki versus Nurullo Aliev. Now, this fight to kick off 2025 as the first fight, I am not complaining, because these guys are pretty much leading into that upper echelon of the lightweight division when it comes to being outside the rankings. Obviously 53 and 59, but Solecki fought Grant Dawson, who's been a top 15 fighter before, and Aliev is undefeated. He has a Khabib-esque style without a doubt, very heavy wrestling based game. And in this fight, not only this fight, but a lot of fights on this card, a lot of fighters are mirrored in terms of their styles. It's going to be very interesting in terms of actually predicting them. And obviously I'll mention that from fight to fight, but it was definitely more tricky than I thought actually getting these predictions done. And looking at this one with Joe Solecki and Aliev, both of these guys are primarily ground game fighters. Joe Solecki, much more heavy on that actual submission offensive game. And then Aliev, he is definitely that real wrestling, grinding, chain wrestling, just absolutely smothering based style kind of fighter. He is very much like a Khabib-esque fighter. Now, when we look at Aliev, he hasn't fought in 2 years. He's been out for a while, and he has had some consistent injuries, mainly with his knee. So that's been a bit of an issue, and that's going to be interesting to see if there's going to be any issues when he has entries when he's shooting, especially when it comes to his double legs. He's very good with his double legs, very quick, wrapping up those legs, getting to the hips and just dropping him straight on the ground. It's going to be interesting to see if there is going to be an issue with that injury there, because he's being out for 2 years is quite a long time. Obviously, he's very young. He fought when he was 22, and he did a very, very good job of shutting down Rafael Alves, who is kicking ass in karate combat. So yeah, Aliev, he's definitely someone that is to be looked out for, obviously only being 24 years old. And even though he's been out for so long, I don't really have a lot of concern for him, to be honest. I think Joe Solecki is a good fighter, but Joe Solecki is a guy that can really get controlled for a long period of time until he finds some form of submission. And the problem is, when you're going against guys like Grant Dawson and Nurullo Aliev, who have very good submission defense, that's when the clock is not Joe Solecki's friend. And that is where it's going to be a big issue in this, because Aliev is just such a good chain-based wrestler. He's very good at just drowning out the opposition. Now, granted, Joe Solecki has fought better competition overall. I mean, he's fought at a higher level. He's fought Drakkar Klose, and he's obviously fought Grant Dawson as well. But in those fights, I mean, he was completely taken out by Drakkar Klose, and then he was out controlled the entire fight against Grant Dawson. And Aliev isn't as good as Grant Dawson in that sense. Obviously, he's very young, but he's not that far off, especially when it comes to that ground game based control. He is very, very good. And with that style, I honestly think that he's going to be able to get this one done by a decision. Solecki is fairly good defensively when it comes to not only the feet, but obviously the ground as well. And Aliev, I mean, we can look at his statistics here. 2-0 with KOs. He's got no submissions to his game. He is a guy that just likes to drown out his opponents. So that's where I'm really looking more towards, obviously, the decision-based win here for Aliev. I think that it's honestly running through the fight. He's very fast twitch. He's actually got pretty decent striking as well. I think he's just faster than Solecki anyway. And I think he's going to either fluster him on the feet or he's going to fluster him on the ground. Aliev just needs to be careful of guillotine opportunities. That is the only thing that he needs to watch out for, because that is something that actually came up against Rafael Alves when he fought him, and it was getting close a couple of times. So if he has really tightened that up over the last 2 years and he stays defensively sound and just uses obviously position over any form of threat to actually take him out, like a submission or a KO TKO finish, I think Aliev does have this one in the bag. Moving up the card to Viktoriia Dudakova versus Fatima Kline. Now, both of these girls very similar statistically across the board, both similar height, both similar reach, and both of them are fairly well-rounded overall. Both of them use a ground game and both use striking arsenals as well. And Dudakova, statistically, she is slightly ahead with the strike accuracy and the volume overall, and she does have fairly decent boxing. And I think her takedown and the takedowns and the timing of her takedowns are probably some of her best work. But with her coming off her first ever loss against Sam Hughes, she did not look good in that fight. She really got flustered by Hughes. Hughes was able to dig deep, utilize good striking in that fight, and Dudakova was just getting outworked. And the issue is going against someone like Fatima Kline, who is coming down from flyweight, fighting arguably one of the best flyweights in Jasmine Jasudavicius, coming down to strawweight. She has looked very good on the regional scene in this division. I mean, her striking, I can tell you, it's better than Dudakova's. She's just cleaner with her combinations, and she mixes her game up a lot better. And the issue is for Dudakova, unlike Jasudavicius, she does not have the physical advantages to exploit Fatima Kline here. Fatima Kline is going to be on that bigger side. She is a little bit bigger. I mean, Jasudavicius was a lot bigger than her, and not having that threat of that physicality against her now is really going to be just going to allow her to either set off with the kickboxing or it's going to set off with the wrestling, and she can mix them together so well. And her coming down, she's going to be hungry. She's obviously came into the UFC. She's got hype on her name because she trains with Erin Blanchfield and she's her main training partner. So obviously the ground game efficiency is definitely going to be there on her side without a doubt over Dudakova anyway, and that's the best part of her game. But yeah, Fatima Kline, she's going to be hungry. She's got to have something to prove. You know, she had a lot of name value on her, and a lot of people were really thinking that she was going to be able to beat Jasudavicius. I didn't, but yeah, she obviously didn't get completely dominated, but yeah, moving down here, she's going to have a chip on her shoulder. Moving down to strawweight, she's going to have the chip on her shoulder. I think that she is going to be able to take a pretty clear decision win here, just by overall mixing up the striking, landing better combinations on the feet, and then mixing up those takedowns. And just like Sam Hughes, just flustering Dudakova and giving her a second loss. Moving up to Magomed Gadzhiasulov versus Bruno Lopes. So physical statures, these guys pretty much the same. I mean, 31 years old, both 6'2". You got Gadzhiasulov, who's got 75.5 inches of reach, and then Lopes, who's got 74. So they're similar physically, but when we look at them stylistically and just how they've gone in their careers, there is contrast in their game. So Gadzhiasulov, he is the one that is impressive for sure. He is the more impressive one without a doubt. He has gone and beat Brenson Ribeiro, which I really want to point that out because he showed a completely different side to his game in terms of his takedowns, the timing on his takedowns, and the control on the ground. And then he obviously beats Jose Medina as well on Dana White's Contender Series. Extremely sharp kickboxing. I mean, he hits at a 60% clip, and he's just got a very high success rate in terms of actually just landing his shots and landing his takedowns, as well as getting that control. Basically, the guy is very well rounded. I mean, aside from actual submission offense, but on the flip side, submission defense is very good as well. So he's got that, he's got the momentum as well. He's 9-0, he's undefeated, and he is looking very, very good. Now, Lopes on the other side, he is a KO artist without a doubt. I mean, he's a finishing machine. He's 11 finishes out of 13 wins, and he has lost by KO once. Now, that was on his first shot on Dana White's Contender Series, where he lost by KO, and then he goes against Mikel Saziniani in the second one, gets a KO there, looked very, very good there, and gets the contract. When I look at his game against Mikel especially, I was really just trying to pinpoint pros for Lopes against Gadzhiasulov, and the one thing that I can find for Lopes, because Gadzhiasulov is just better everywhere, to be honest. The one thing I can find that he needs to exercise straight away, and if he doesn't, I think he's completely cooked unless he lands a Hail Mary shot, is the leg kicks, because Gadzhiasulov is not the best at checking leg kicks, and being a kickboxer like that with the speed advantage here, Lopes needs to be chopping down his ability to move, the speed in his kicks as freaking quickly as possible. Otherwise, Gadzhiasulov, being a K1 kickboxer, he could easily take Lopes out, I honestly think. I mean, the odds here, I mean, they do read into it. Obviously, Gadzhiasulov is a decent favorite, and I think it's completely fair. I think he could be more of a favorite, to be honest. He's very, very good with just very fast front leg based attacks. I mean, he's got the very good front push kick. He's got good leg kicks of his own. I mean, very good outside leg kicks, and he's just overall very, very technical, having a lot of weapons. And Lopes, when I watch him fight, pretty basic boxing combinations, just rudimentary fundamentals, which isn't bad, but I mean, there are issues in the game there when he is literally on the center line, because he just doesn't really get off it. Doesn't get off the center line when he's going forward, or when he's going backwards, especially when fighters are trying to actually hit him. He does not really have much lateral movement, and that's going to be an issue when you're going against someone that has that long length with those kicks, and he'll be able to catch Lopes where Lopes might not think that he can. And that's where Gadzhiasulov, with those tools, he's got not only those kicks within there, he's got spinning back fists, he's got a lot of different base kicks anyway, as well as just very good fundamentals himself. So with just the arsenal, the deeper arsenal that he has, the speed difference as well, unless Lopes chops him down, chops those legs down, really just halts him, especially in that first round, just literally just needs to focus on those legs, I don't think it's going to happen, and that's why I'm going with Gadzhiasulov. I think he's going to be able to get the KO TKO in the second or third round, because not only that, Lopes does slow down a bit. He did that in his Dana White's Contender Series fight before he got the knockout, and he also got tagged in that fight as well. I think Gadzhiasulov is either going to be able to take this to the ground, control him, or he's going to have a field day on the feet, just really utilize kicks to the body, just really just slowing Lopes down, and then finishing the fight in the second to maybe early third round. Moving up the card to Ernesta Kareckaite versus Nicolle Caliari. Now, Ernesta Kareckaite, she is a very long fighter. I mean, 71 inches of reach. She has got 9 inches over Caliari in this fight, which is pretty impressive. And I mean, I've seen Kareckaite fight a few times, and she has probably the highest output in that whole division. She hits at 8 strikes per minute on average, around there. She is just a forward pressure zombie who has a lot of cardio. She's got durability. She's just, yeah, pretty entertaining to watch, to be fair. One thing I will say, with all that volume, she doesn't have a lot of power. Doesn't have a lot of power, but she's got the cardio to back it up through 3 rounds. No problem. She's done it multiple times now. So it is pretty impressive to see that she can do that. Now, when we look at her and her validity in terms of the fights that she's fought, she hasn't fought the best opponents overall, and neither has Nicolle. I mean, they're both pretty fresh into the UFC. Obviously, Caliari hasn't actually been in the UFC yet, but Kareckaite has had a couple fights. I mean, she fought Dione Barbosa. She lost that fight, which I think is absolute bullshit. So I think she should actually be undefeated. So if there's going to be an issue with momentum there, obviously it was her last fight, that could play into this one. Now, that's where it's going to be interesting to see here, but Caliari, when we look at her, she does have a bit of hype on her. She's got 100% finish rate, with most of those being by KO TKOs, which is very, very impressive. But the caliber of opposition is very strong. And when we look at her, especially on the back foot, defensively, she does have pretty clear holes in her game. And I mean, Dana White's Contender Series, even when she got the armbar, I mean, it wasn't really even like her positioning herself to lock it in. It was a clear mistake from her opponent and then kind of just set in there. Really not trying to like nitpick and just drag it down, but there's not a whole lot of validity there. And that's why I see that Kareckaite should be the favorite, and that's why I'm going to be taking her in this fight. And I'm going to be taking her by a decision. I think just the pure volume, the output, she's fought better opposition as well. I don't see her getting taken out by Caliari. I think Caliari being able to close that distance and find a perfect clean shot is going to be very hard when you put Kareckaite's durability as well as her volume and reach advantage together to stifle Caliari, because Caliari is going to be coming forward, well, attempting to come forward. Kareckaite is going to be able to pop shots in her face, jabs, you know, lead hooks, anything like that while she's coming in, and that's going to obviously stun her and not allow that power to get all the way through. And Caliari does not have good head movement, so I think that's going to be pretty easy for Ernesta Kareckaite to really build up that volume and keep that bloody high stat alive in this fight. So I'm going to take her by the decision in this one. Moving on the card to Preston Parsons versus Jacobe Smith. Now, Preston Parsons, this guy is, I mean, he's been in the UFC for a bit. He's pretty middle of the road, I mean, in terms of his outcomes. He's lost against guys like Trevin Giles and Matthew Semmelsberger, but they're not the greatest overall, but the experience that he has within the UFC, being in the octagon regardless, is a positive factor for him. And when we look at his pros of his actual game stylistically, he has a decent ground game overall. He's 9-1 with submissions, and the wrestling overall as well is good. And even though his striking isn't the best, he hasn't knocked anyone out before, he does have pretty decent fundamental basic striking. It's not too bad there. He actually did give Oban Elliott a bit of a run there, which was good. Because Oban Elliott, I'll tell you right now, that guy is very good. He is going to be popping up those rankings. I think he'll be a top 15 fighter for sure. Now, that's Parsons. Obviously, Jacobe on the other side, 9-0, undefeated. We got a couple undefeated fighters on this card. Jacobe, he is a bit of a KO machine, obviously 7-0 with KOs. He doesn't have the experience that Preston Parsons has, which we need to take into consideration, but he's got the momentum on his side, obviously looking very dangerous in his last fight as well. He's got good fundamentals on the feet. He's very fast. He's very strong. I mean, he's a bit of just like an athletic freak, and he's got very good takedowns as well, which against Preston Parsons is going to be tricky. I mean, he's good at like getting the singles, running the pipe, getting him down, but that's not against a UFC credited fighter like Preston Parsons. This is obviously the hardest guy that he had to face. And Jacobe, if he can get it to the ground and pound that he has, especially with its elbows, is very dangerous. Very, very good there. Can split his opponent's faces up pretty quick. But getting that part of his game to succeed is going to be easier said than done, and that's where I think being a 4-1 dog for Preston Parsons, there could be some decent money in there, but I'm not gonna lock it in on this one for Parsons. I think just Jacobe Smith, when it comes to the feet contrast, I just think his striking, his KO power, his speed, his athletic ability is where he is really going to be able to shine. Now, Preston Parsons, obviously, he is someone that is able to keep himself safe in terms of using that wrestling to, you know, smother his opponents, hold them against the cage, even take them down. I mean, there's definitely an opportunity for Preston Parsons to take Jacobe Smith down without a doubt. And that's where I think I'm going to take Jacobe by a decision. There could be a late finish in here, but I think that Parsons, I think through the first and second round, Jacobe Smith will be able to just really impose his will with the speed, with the athleticism. And then I think going through to the third, if Preston can survive, I think that Preston can really flip things on its head. And then I think he can take the third round just on reversing positions, using the wrestling that he does have. I mean, he's had so much more experience just going through grueling fights. And that's where I think that cardio base for him is just going to be better. But that's where I think the first and second round are going to be Jacobe's, and then Preston will clean it up in the third a little bit more. Really just take that on reversing positions, just getting more control. But I think Jacobe will just do too much work, too much damage, just too much accumulation, and really fluster Parsons to really control that cage through the first and second round to take the win. Moving up the card to Thiago Moises versus Trey Ogden. Now, this... kind of surprised that this hasn't happened yet, to be honest. It's a very tricky stylistic matchup that these guys do have. Another one of those kind of mirrored based matches. I mean, 8-1 with submissions against 11-3 with submissions. Both of these guys are ground game based experts, and Thiago Moises is definitely more so, I'd say, advanced on the ground in terms of competing against better opposition overall in his career. I mean, he's fought very good opposition realistically. He's fought Ludovic Kline, he's fought Benoit Saint-Denis, he's fought Islam Makhachev. I mean, Islam went to championship rounds with this guy. So it's pretty impressive to really see what he can do when he does get the fight to the ground. And yeah, literally having a competitive fight with all of those guys, it is pretty impressive. But he's just that guy that cannot get through the bloody rankings. He's really struggling with that. And going against Trey Ogden is definitely not guaranteed, because Trey Ogden is one of the trickiest guys stylistically, I'm sure, to train for. He is very tricky to fight. I mean, he's got semi-decent reach for lightweight, to be honest, but he is just very, very smart. He's got very good fight IQ. He's very good defensively. And on the feet, the thing that I really like about Trey Ogden is his jab. He has a very nice jab. He is very good at circling properly to get away from danger. Now, the thing is, Thiago Moises isn't a really big threat on the feet. Trey Ogden has the advantage on the feet. The only time I see Trey Ogden not having an advantage when it comes to the feet is Moises out muscling him in clinch exchanges. That's the only way I see that happening. I think Moises needs to bully Ogden. He needs to find a way to really just close the distance and not let Trey circle around the outside, utilize his jab, and really fluster him, because that's where, honestly, I think that he can win this fight. And I am pretty confident that Trey Ogden as a dog is going to be able to do it. I think that he can. I think he's just so tricky as a fighter to prepare for. I mean, if it gets to the ground, it's not even guaranteed that Moises is actually going to have the advantage on the ground, to be honest. I mean, obviously, Ogden has been submitted 3 times, but this isn't any time recently, realistically. I mean, Trey Ogden is a guy that does have offensive ground game himself and could possibly catch Moises. When you look at them both on the ground, I think Moises might have a slight edge, but it's nothing really that's going to be much of a contrast. And that's where I see, if we're really canceling that out, which is a huge possibility, I'm much more confident in Trey Ogden on the feet outpointing Moises to a decision win here. I think that he is going to be able to get it done. Moving up the card to Ihor Potieria versus Marco Tulio. Now, finally, Ihor Potieria is actually catching a break, because this man has been on fucking death's row. He's fought, obviously, guys at light heavyweight like Carlos Ulberg. He's come down. He's been absolutely brutally murdered by Michel Pereira, and is now finally actually getting to fight someone that is somewhat of his speed. I mean, even having to fight Cesar Almeida as well with that pedigree of striking. The guy has not had a fun time in the UFC, and that's probably after he did a Fortnite dance over Mauricio Hual after he retired. That's probably the curse that he got, and probably deserved, because don't do that to a legend like that. But looking at this, obviously, it's coming to his speed. I mean, Tulio, He is a KO specialist. I mean, he's taken pretty much all his wins by KO, almost. He has 2 Dana White's Contender Series wins, but the first one was by a decision, wasn't overly impressive, and then obviously gets a finish in his second one and gets the contract. Now, when it comes to that last fight that he did have and he got the contract, can definitely say the guy loves forward pressuring. He loves flinging a lead left hook when he is pressuring forward to try and catch them. And then also he likes to work the body well with his kicks. That's what I will say. That's a lot of what I can see from his game. Now, a bit of a fun fact when it comes to Tulio as well. Obviously, Potieria is the taller fighter. I mean, he's got a bit more reach as well, but Tulio's last 5 to 6 opponents have been in between 6'3" and 6'6", which Potieria obviously fits that bill. So Tulio, in a sense, doesn't really have much worry or concern there in terms of those physical attributes that Potieria does have. He has trained, I mean, well, literally fought against pretty much Potieria's his whole entire career. So the difference is going to be when we look at them stylistically and obviously competitively within their careers. We need to look at their opposition levels, and when we look at that, it's Ihor Potieria has just gone through the trials of hell. I mean, he has fought very, very tough guys, and look, he's actually had some decent performances. I mean, he is on the chopping block at the moment. He is 1-5 in his last 5 fights, so he's only got 1 win, but all the guys that he did lose to are pretty damn good, and some of them, even like Cesar Almeida fouled him like 48,000 fucking times in that fight, which did hinder his game, and he's actually looking somewhat decent. Now, looking at that, if he's going against Cesar Almeida and he's landing some good shots in the exchanges, and he's going against a guy like Tulio, aside from the power, Ihor Potieria, I'm liking him a lot more in this fight, as well as obviously his ground game attributes as well that he's going to be able to mix in. He's fought better opposition. He's got more depth to his game. If they both get into exchange and chuck the fight IQ out the window, I would be more inclined to say Tulio would probably get the KO win there. But Potieria, if he's being smart, if he's recognizing, okay, I can seriously get a win to save my ass here, I think that he just needs to put on a technical masterclass, really just utilize that striking at range, use that reach that he does have. Obviously, it's a little bit, but leg reach as well that he's got there too. Really using kicks along the outside, just finding those little combinations, 1-2s up to 3-piece combinations when it comes to obviously being in the box with Tulio, just being very close quarters with him, because Tulio is going to have that power there. But Tulio doesn't really mix combinations together that great. He's just really got that power. So Potieria mixing up those striking combinations like he did against Cesar Almeida, as well as getting the fight to the ground and mixing that up too. I think that he's going to be able to win this one by decision, and he really needs to. Moving up the card to Felipe Bunes versus Jose Johnson. Now, Johnson is good, and he does have a pretty obvious height advantage. He's only got a little bit of reach in terms of an advantage, which is pretty impressive when we're looking at flyweight, because Johnson is huge for that division. And when we look at him, he's fought some pretty damn good opposition. Obviously, he's ranked so low in flyweight because he's fought a bantamweight pretty much the whole time before, aside from fighting Asu Almabayev. So he's fought a guy that's pretty much in the top 10 of flyweight now, a very, very good fighter. He's fought guys like Damon Blackshear. I mean, he beat Chad Anheliger as well. He has fought good opposition. He's fought better opposition than Bunes has. Bunes has only fought once. He did fight against Joshua Van. Don't get me wrong, Joshua Van is great, but obviously in terms of the consistency and that consistency within that schedule, Jose Johnson is looking more impressive. He's got the power. He's 8-1 with KOs. Obviously, his kryptonite is his submission defense, and Bunes is a submission-based artist. He's very good at grappling. He's got decent Muay Thai as well, like most of those Brazilians do. But when we look at Johnson, he's got a higher output. He's also more accurate as well. He's got a very good shot selection on him, and he almost hits 75% 75% clip, which is pretty impressive. Now, Bunes, he has a pretty high strike output and is very, very fast when it comes to just his kicking game. He's got a very good capoeira based style. He's a Muay Thai capoeira and BJJ based style. And he's got very good like spinning heel kicks. I mean, he's very flashy with his style. He's pretty entertaining, and he's got good leg kicks as well. And as well as that, even with his boxing is actually decent. In the first round against Joshua Van, he won that round. He caught Joshua Van with very nice right crosses, straight across, catching Van as Van was trying to pressure forward. And ultimately, yeah, he was looking very good in that fight. But I've got to say, he's not on the young side in flyweight, being 35 years old with the style that he does have. Man, in that Joshua Van fight, leading into that second round, the guy gassed hard. He's got cardio issues, which Johnson does not. Johnson does not have those issues. Now, that's where I see, honestly, I think Johnson is going to be able to take this fight. I think he's going to take it by a decision here. There might be a possibility for a late finish, but Johnson does need to be wary of Bunes when it comes to that striking style. Very underrated, fast striking style that he does have. And Johnson isn't the best with his strike defense overall, especially when he is on the offensive, because he tends to lunge in with his shots. And if he does that against a guy like Bunes, who is very fast, he could get caught and taken out. So if he can just manage that, and really, hopefully he's tidied that up since his last fight, then hopefully there shouldn't be any issues there. But yeah, realistically, aside from that, I think Johnson is just more clean with his striking. He's got the experience there. He's got the cardio most importantly. I think that he's just really going to be able to pick Bunes apart, especially with the front teep kicks he's got. He uses very nice teeps, probably his best weapon in his arsenal. And just, I think he's going to be able to chop down Bunes, especially after his fight with Josh Van. Johnson's going to be targeting that body for sure, and that's going to get him the win here. Moving up the card to Uros Medic versus Punahele Soriano. Now, both of these guys are pretty mirrored in terms of a statistic sense. They both have pretty high strike accuracies. Their volume as well, they pretty much hit like 4 strikes per minute. But when we look at them, honestly, I mean, we know Soriano's got a bit more of a reach advantage, but man, I just don't think this guy is UFC caliber, to be honest. I just think you look back at his record and you look at the fighters that he's fought, all his losses aren't really by anyone notable, and all his wins aren't notable either. I mean, he's realistically only won against cans. I mean, he did not look impressive in his last win against Miguel Beza, and that guy is definitely not UFC caliber. He's been cut, obviously. And when we look at him, when it comes to durability, he's good. I mean, he's got power in his hands. He's 6-1 with KOs, but man, you're going up against Uros Medic, who is just technically better. He's got more power. He's got more momentum back now. He's only lost to Jalen Turner and Miktabek Oralby. I mean, he's got very good boxing. Man, I'm taking Medic. I don't really need to say much more, to be honest. This is probably my most confident pick on the card. Taking Medic by a KO TKO in the second or third round. Don't get me wrong, I'm not fully counting Soriano out here, but I'm just not counting out his durability. There could be a chance that Medic could take this by a decision, but with the way Medic fights, I mean, the guy has not even gone for a decision win before. He's never even gone to a decision. So I'm really putting the bets on Medic getting that late TKO finish, possibly a KO finish, with the way his boxing looks, and especially the way he looked against Tim Means. Yeah, sign me up. Moving up the card to Christian Rodriguez versus Austin Barshi. Now, C-Rod, certifiably, infamously, this guy is a hype train killer. I mean, he's taken out Raul Rosas Jr., he's taken out Cameron Simon, he's taken out Isaac Dolgarian, giving them all their first losses, and he is honestly very tricky, clearly, for anyone to go up against, especially in their debut. And being a hype train killer, Austin Barshi is definitely a hype train. He's 13-0, has a very high takedown rate. He is a very aggressive fighter. I mean, he has very nice, actually, strike defense. I mean, he's got amazing entries. I mean, took his last opponent down like 18 times. He is very, very impressive overall. When he fought Ramos, I mean, he really put a statement on, got that contract, obviously. No doubt about it there. I mean, he was hunting chokes. I mean, he got the choke as well, rear naked, and he's very good with his chokes overall. But when it comes to that, I mean, when it comes to the feet in the striking realm, C-Rod's never been taken out before. And C-Rod has fought much better opposition than Austin Bashi has. And when it comes to Bashi's best part of his game in terms of being able to finish a fight with his chokes, is he going to be able to choke Rodriguez? Don't know. I don't know about that, because obviously there's a lot of, issue and kind of just doubt when it comes to Christian Rodriguez losing to Julian Erosa in his last fight, got submitted there. So he's not invincible. Obviously, it's the first time he's ever been finished, but Austin Bashi is not Julian Erosa. They're not, the same type of fighter, and the experience is just a joke. Nowhere near the same experience there. Now, when it comes to on the ground and these guys fighting each other, I think Bashi does have an ability to drown out the 15 minutes and hold Rodriguez. There's a possibility there. I think he does have to hurt him to make sure that happens. But Bashi being able to hold someone for 15 minutes, I think he can. I think he's very physically fit. Cardio was not an issue in that fight. But doing it against someone who has such a good counter wrestling, scrambling based ability on the ground, I don't know about that happening, because Rodriguez, you saw him against Isaac Dalgarian. The guy is really, really good defensively, especially with wrestling in particular. Very good counter wrestling, and on the feet, Christian Rodriguez, I am more confident in him. I mean, he's had more experience. I've seen him on the feet. He looks just a little bit more put together. I mean, Bashi, we just don't have a whole lot on him there. I mean, he's got a couple of KOs, but other than that, I just don't really see it. Bashi, I can see in a sense why he is a favorite, just because of the hype there. Being undefeated, he is a very strong wrestler. But man, it's a 3-1 dog. I'm taking Christian Rodriguez here, and I am confident that he can get this win. I'm not just saying that it's just like a random underdog pick. Rodriguez has the experience. He is a hype train killer. He has very good defensive capabilities on the feet, on the ground. He does have submissions as well, and he can take people out. I don't see an issue there in terms of taking him, and I think, honestly, that these odds should be close. These odds have probably spread even further apart. These should be closer, and I would not blame with a Christian Rodriguez pickup on a multi, to be honest. I think it's a bit of a disservice. Obviously, Bashi is good, but I'm going with C-Rod on this one. Moving up the card to the people's main event, Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. This is without a doubt going to be an incredible fight. The striking will be absolutely insane, and that's probably all we're going to get, because Kopylov, he has a little bit of wrestling game in there, but Chris Curtis pretty much does not at all. I mean, Chris Curtis, we know Chris Curtis. He is rankings proven. I mean, also actually as well, he's gone at Kopylov for putting spies into his gym, so this is already spiced up as it is. Chris Curtis does not like Roman Kopylov. If you didn't know that already, it's just going to spice up the fight to make it even better. So obviously Chris Curtis has gone off on Kopylov, doesn't like him. He's got a chip on his shoulder, obviously having a fantastic fight against Brendan Allen in his last one. Arguably could have won that fight, obviously completely cooked his hamstring, which is really sad to see. But Kopylov on the other side, we know him. He is a very, very good kickboxer. He is a killer outside the rankings. He literally freaking kills people. He is amazing with the kickboxing, head kicks for days. Chris Curtis, more so obviously a strict kind of boxer, but very, very good at that. Obviously being ranking proven, he's extremely durable, great strike defense, and very, very just clean, tight boxing overall, and absolutely amazing takedown defense, which we won't even need here, because Kopylov, I don't even see a point as why he would do it. He's 11-0 with KOs. These guys are 28-1 with KOs. And Kopylov is one of the scariest guys when it comes to kickboxing outside the rankings. Without a doubt, fantastic job from the matchmakers on this fight. And I'm going to say, I think this one was actually kind of clear to me. I'm going to be taking Kopylov by a decision win here. Chris Curtis is great, don't get me wrong, but Kopylov, with his ability to string combinations together and get that much power on it, is he going to take Chris Curtis out? I obviously think not, as you can see on the screen. Chris Curtis is so good defensively, but the issue is with Chris Curtis is that he has a very bad habit of keeping himself safe, but letting the fight slip away by coasting because of that defense. He really just kind of gets lackadaisical when it comes to being in those exchanges. He did it against Marc-Andre Barrio, which I think he lost that fight. And if he does it against Kopylov, yes, he will be safe, but Kopylov will be having more volume, more output. He'll be just landing better shots, more damage. And with that, with being younger as well, having those fast tools and being so great technically, I think Kopylov is going to run away with a decision in this one. Possibly could be a 29-28. Maybe Curtis comes out strong in the first, but I think Kopylov is going to be able to take this one. Moving on the card to Abdulrazak Alhassan versus Cesar Almeida. Now this fight is like a fucking bomb's about to go off, because we got Alhassan 12 of 1 with KOs. The guy has not won by submission. The guy has not won by decision. He is kill or be killed with those hands. Now going against Cesar Almeida, very, very good kickboxer. Good kickboxer, very good technically. 4-0 with KOs, very durable himself. Now, this is pretty plain and simple, to be honest, I think, in terms of how this is going to pan out. We have either got Alhassan, who is going to come through in the first round and decapitate Almeida, like he's done with 12 other fighters, or Cesar Almeida is going to survive through the first round against Alhassan, or survive, or, you know, just technically outwork him, and then go through the second and the third, pick him apart, and then take him out there, or possibly get a decision. And yeah, I think Almeida is going to, honestly, he's a guy that's fought like Alex Pereira in kickboxing and beat him. The guy is old, but Alhassan's older. I mean, like, that's the only thing I could really see, but Alhassan's is even older. So yeah, I just don't see many flaws in terms of Cesar Almeida having a good showing here. I mean, he's technically, he is better than Alhassan. He's better pedigree of a striker. Alhassan's got more power, but he's got to make it land, and that's much, much more easier said than done. Alhassan, definitely, if you're Alhassan, getting this fight to the ground. If he's getting on top of Cesar Almeida, he could ground and pound him out. That is the best way for him to do it, but I'm not riding on that on a pick, to be honest. I think Almeida just has so many tools. He is obviously improving his takedown defense as well, and I think end of round 2 to start of round 3, I think Almeida is going to get this done. And moving on to our tricky and weirdly placed co-main event of Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Carlston Harris. Now, very strange fight. I mean, Ponzi has a weird knack of getting co-main events. I don't know how or why. I mean, he was a great fighter back in the day, and he's obviously fought better competition than Carlston Harris has overall in his career, without a doubt. He has been around for a very, very long time. Now, when we look at him fighting all that competition, and especially recently, he has taken so much damage in recent times. And compared to Carlston Harris has taken a bit of damage, but aside from losing to Chaos Williams and Shavkat Rakhmonov, who are elite tier fighters. Well, Chaos Williams, I'm telling you, he will be, but Shavkat obviously is. He's taken out guys like Impa Kasanganai, who is tearing it up in PFL, and also Jeremiah Wells, who is an athletic freak and who is more athletic than Santiago Ponzinibbio at this stage. And he's just looked more impressive overall in recent times. And statistically, he's got better strike accuracy. He's got the boxing base. Obviously, Ponzinibbio's got more power on his side, but Carlston Harris is just a bit more technically sound when we look at that statistically as well. He's just a bit better in terms of landing, and that's what I'm liking a bit more there for him. The odds are pretty much even. I wouldn't be surprised if it does swing in Ponzinibbio's favor overall, to be honest, but I am taking Carlston Harris. I think it could be a finish towards the second or third round, but I think even though Ponzi's taken a lot of damage, the guy has a lot of heart, and Harris is going to be aware of his power. I mean, 16 and 4 KOs. I think that's where Harris is going to be able to do a good job with his boxing, but he's not going to extend to the point where he's going to try to take Ponzinibbio out. That's what I'm getting at. And I think when it comes to Harris as well, his takedown offensive game, his ability to mix in the takedowns is better than Ponzinibbio's overall anyway. So I think that there's just more depth to his game, and I think there's more avenues for him to win, and I think he's going to be able to get that decision win in this one. Moving on to the first main event of 2025, we have got Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Ribas. Now, look, this isn't like the best main event we could have got, realistically, for a fight night, but I will say, well, firstly, we can kind of understand to an extent why this has been made, but I'll just leave it at that. But also, they had a fight before. This is a rematch, and the first fight was entertaining. It was good. There was a lot of output, a lot of transitions on the ground as well. And I mean, if they're picking this up again 4 years later, and they've both improved very well, honestly, they've both looked a lot better since then. Mackenzie Dern, I mean, her striking defense has always been absolute hell, but she has really picked up in terms of just making entertaining fights. And Amanda Ribas, the exact same through 2 different divisions. They're both just very energetic, high-paced based fighters. And when we look at this fight going into it, is there going to be much difference from the outcome? I ultimately don't think so, which might sound boring, but I don't think there is. I think that Amanda Ribas is going to be able to take this fight, and I think she's going to be able to take it by like a 48-47 decision, possibly a 49-46. She is a bit of a nightmare matchup for Mackenzie Dern, because Mackenzie Dern's best attribute is her ability to get fighters on the ground and exploit them there. Ribas is a BJJ black belt. So is Dern, but Ribas has never been submitted. She has a very good game on the ground, but even more importantly, her judo is very good. She was hip tossing Mackenzie Dern everywhere in her first fight, and she has continued to do it to so many fighters up until this point. She is very, very good with her judo, but even more to add to that, she has better striking. She is a better striker. She's better on the front foot. The defense obviously is better than Mackenzie Dern's, pretty much anyone's would be, but when it comes to her counter striking is where it's going to be so clutch for her, because her counter right hand in the first fight, she was punishing Dern with that the whole entire time. I think Mackenzie Dern, obviously great fighter, she has improved. She looked good against Lupe Godinez, especially with her striking. Her straight strikes look good. Her being on the front foot looked very good, and Lupe Godinez is a very good striker herself, but Mackenzie Dern was also able to look at a ground game avenue there, whereas she's not going to be able to do the same thing against Ribas. So that's where it's an issue in terms of cancelling out Mackenzie Dern's best game, and where she is going to have to strike, she is not as good as Ribas. And when we look at, say, Mackenzie Dern winning the first 2 rounds, edging it on control or something like that, or just getting better position-wise on the ground, Amanda Ribas, out of the 2 of them, without a doubt, has the dog in her. She has the ability to make it an absolute fucking scrap. I mean, we look at her against like Macy Barber. I mean, absolutely incredible. We even look at her against like Rose Namajunas as well. She just makes fights so entertaining. Now, obviously, she is susceptible to getting KO'd for sure, well, TKO'd. But Dern doesn't have that ability. She's never taken someone out like that. She doesn't have the power in her hands. And Ribas has faced a lot worse and has been hit by a lot worse than whatever Mackenzie Dern's going to bring. So ultimately, I think Ribas is going to be able to get this decision win here. Possibly, if she really starts launching on the feet, she could possibly get like a 4th or 5th round TKO, I think. I think that's definitely a possibility, because, I mean, we saw what she did against Luana Pinheiro. Amanda Ribas can pull shit out of nowhere. She is very entertaining in that sense. She's well-rounded, she is game, she's hungry. I mean, she has just got the energy and honestly just the ability to get this one done. And yeah, just being the more complete fighter overall, she's going to edge close to that top 5 in strawweight. Now, looking at the fight card awards, kicking it off with the fight of the night, I've got to give it to Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. I mean, this is the people's main event. I mean, you got these guys who are absolutely fantastic strikers, very technical, very clean defensively and offensively. You see Chris Curtis, the boxer, Roman Kopylov, the kickboxer. I am so keen for this fight. My favorite fight of this card. Now, looking at the upset of the night, pretty clear to say, I'm going with Christian Rodriguez. I mean, as a 3-1 underdog, the guy has beaten Isaac Dalgarian, Cameron Simon. He's beaten Raul Rosas Jr. The guy is very good, very underrated. Obviously, they were at bantamweight, and this is at featherweight, but you cannot deny his defensive capabilities and just his experience overall. I think that he does have the ability to draw this one out, get this done by canceling out on the ground with his defensive scrambling capabilities, and then just picking apart on the feet. I think that he does have that opportunity and ability to do it. I think it could possibly be a split decision win for him, but regardless, if it hits, it hits. Now, moving on to fighter to watch, I'm going all the way down the card and I'm giving it to Fatima Kline, the strawweight Fatima Kline. I think that she is going to have a very good showing, very dominant showing against Dudakova. I think she's just going to be more clean, more fast on the feet. I think when it comes to the ground game, I think that she is just going to be able to outwork her there, especially transitioning from the feet to the ground. She's just better at that than Dudakova is. And, you know, obviously having Erin Blanchfield in her corner, giving her that spotlight, I think that it's, you know, it's really going to show as to whether she's going to be UFC material if she can actually dominate this fight. Now, lastly, finish of the night, I am giving it to Uros Medic. I think this guy, honestly, you can see it on the screen, what he did to Tim Means. The guy has got pretty special power. He is a beast, and honestly, I think that he's going to be able to get this done pretty easy. I just don't see him getting finished or anything like that against Soriano. I think Soriano is just, yeah, not UFC material, and I think Medic is, and he's fought way better opposition, and yeah, second or third round, I think he is getting it done. I hope you enjoyed the first UFC prediction and breakdown video for 2025, and if you want to see more MMA based content, definitely check out the video on the screen, and I'm keen to hear from you more this year moving forward so we can all see the fight cards to come. Get keen.